shout out Sweden. Shout out Sweden. Shout out Trap Lord Ross. Now listen, you click the title, you read the page. It's just so coincidental, right? It's so, I don't know, shocking. It's so weird. It's just ironic. It's, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't even know. It's random that as I'm on my Sweden journey, learning about Sweden music, just getting into the Sweden culture, out of nowhere, Trap Lord Ross drops a video about Sweden deadliest gang war. And I'm like, wow, this is crazy. I'm literally learning about Sweden around the same time that Trap Lord just dropped a video about Sweden. How cool is that? This video should probably tell me all I need to know, because we all know Trap Lord does his facts. Now, am I gonna sit here and react to a whole hour and 40-minute video? Probably not. We're gonna skim through it. One thing I love about Trap Lord is he has chapters. So, you know, if I see a certain artist that I recognize the name, because I am on my Sweden journey, you know, learning my Sweden culture, I clicked it, and then, you know, we'll take it from there. So, hope you're feeling good. Hope you're feeling great. We're about to get into this reaction video right now. Subscribe for the vibe. Shout out Sweden. Shout out Sweden. Rest in peace to everybody that lost their lives. I'm actually glad that videos like this get shined, because something has to be done. You know what I mean? And the only way that it's going to get done is if people talk about it more. It sucks that that's how things have to get done, but that's just how it is. So hopefully the awareness in this video as well would spread more attention to this, and we could get something done out there, right? Nobody deserves to lose their life, all right? Beforehand. All right, so let's get to it. I done done enough talking.
From public sources and is shown on the basis of fair use. I've made every effort to ensure accuracy of the sources, but I am not responsible for any content third parties have published. Every effort has been made to censor this video in accordance with YouTube's community guidelines, but if you want to see an uncut version of this video...
Yep. To be honest, like I said, I'm not gonna react to the whole video, but I got Patreon. Like, I got Trap Lord Patreon, so I'm actually gonna go watch the whole video when I'm done with y'all. But yeah. Because I just don't want to sit here for a whole hour and 40 minutes. And it's like, it's his work, you know? So, all right, we pretty much already know the basics as far as, like, the introduction. Okay, let's get into the gangs. Let's get into that. Stockton City. Remember, that's my song I like. Hey, Stockton City. Yeah, what I know about that, lads?
The wave of gangster rap in Sweden makes it seem like the gang problem has arrived in the country pretty much out of nowhere during the 2010s. And while to a certain extent you could argue that that's the case, the roots of the gang problems in Sweden go arguably much further into the past. Some concerns towards the social problems brewing in the Swedish suburbs have been discussed even internationally as far back as the 90s. For example, there's a 1998 article in the New York Times highlighting the ghettoization of a Stockholm suburb called Rinkeby, a place where the brutal gang war that we later discuss in this video actually begun. This was an article which ended with a bizarre romanticization of the hood.
Sweden ghetto? Like, we ghetto in America, but I ain't know Sweden was ghetto. This is craziness.
Where a child would actually explain that the children all had stories about how their parents wouldn't let them party in Rinkeby and just how interesting they feel life is in these areas. Interestingly, some years later in 2005, as France was dealing with large riots in their troubled suburbs, French newspapers were presenting Rinkeby as a model example for countries like France to follow. However, perhaps nobody could have predicted just how much things would later escalate, particularly during the 2010s. The Swedish police in 2019 would estimate that there were around 30,000 gang members and affiliates in the country. Now, for context, in the UK, the country which is most often discussed when talking about a gang problem in Europe, there were approximately 33,500 so-called professional gang members in 2018. Now, this was considered to be a pretty large number, and according to The Guardian, this meant that there were more gangsters in Britain than in all three big Italian-American mafia families. But if you take a step back, and account for the fact that the UK's population is about 6 times the size of Sweden's, the numbers there become much more alarming. Statistics show that lethal violence in Sweden has also been steadily increasing since the early 2010s, but the somewhat moderate increase shown in this statistic tells only part of the problem. What makes the situation more alarming is that while other types of homicides have actually decreased, which has been a common progression in Europe, gun homicides in particular have grown so much that the overall trend of violence in Sweden has been increasing, with gun-related deaths.
I don't understand, like, okay, I get it, right? Like, there's war everywhere, right? There's war in America, there's war everywhere, right? I'm from Brooklyn, I've seen it, whatever. But what's confusing to me is, how does it just get this bad? You know, like, how does Sweden go from, like he said, being this amazing place to just turning into just violence? Maybe should I go back? Because this is just talking about the Sweden, and he talk about the introduction. So hopefully he gets more in depth. Because I'm like, what?
Actually tripling between 2012 and 2020, taking Sweden from the very bottom of Europe's gun violence rankings to the very top. And now, only Albania, a country with decades-long issues with guns and deadly feuds that put the country ahead of even America in per capita gun deaths, leaving Albania...
Why you gotta say it like that, though? Like, even America, like America just horrible when it comes to gun violence. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's really not. Like, get it? I know we have a lot of mass shootings, okay. But it's really not. A lot of places in America you can't even have guns. I'm from Brooklyn. They don't even play that shit. They're actually they're going back and forth with the law right now, trying to get certain gun laws passed. So to be honest, to be 100, a lot of our gun laws are really strict. And so is it in Sweden, but y'all, they just don't care too much about them.
Albania as the only European country more deadly for gun
They look at them gun laws like, nah, we're going to do what we want to do in Sweden.
crime than Sweden. But Albanian gangs, that's a whole other video. Again, to put Sweden's staggering number of guns in context, the Swedish police estimate that there are 3,000 illegal firearms in the country's capital of Stockholm alone, which is around 3 times the number of guns thought to be in London, which is a city around 10 times the population of Stockholm. And the per capita gun murder rate of the Swedish capital is about 30 times that of London. The great majority of the shootings in Sweden are connected to organised crime, with the new street gangs being largely to blame for this alarming increase. Particularly, statistics show how the rise in gun crime correlates with an increase in drug-related crime that most of the gangs apparently participate in. Moreover, the use of explosives by these gangs has also increased significantly.
He just said the use of explosives grabs fake beard. Like, I don't know. What? The use of explosives? I've never heard of 2 dudes going to war and they bombing. Outside of like on some like countries is like America versus, you know what I mean? But 2 hood dudes just going back and forth bombing each other? These got bombs? Nah.
Which has further resulted in numerous deaths and horrific news stories that make Sweden seem like it's in a state of civil war.
I woke up at 4:40 from a proper blast, and it was one of those, you know, rattling blasts, like...
In Sweden, a woman has died after what police believe may be the latest in a series of explosions linked to a gang war. Investigators say the 25-year-old victim was a neighbour of the targeted premises and had no criminal links.
Police think a grenade attack in Sweden, which killed an 8-year-old boy, could be linked to a gang-related conflict. Yusuf Wasami from Birmingham in the UK died when a hand grenade was thrown through the window of an apartment in Gothenburg.
Police in Sweden say...
Yo, they threw a hand grenade in someone's apartment? That is crazy.
A man has died after picking up a suspected hand grenade in Stockholm.
Swedish gangs have also been linked to shootings and murders in other countries like Denmark, Spain, Turkey, and the United Kingdom. And the gangs are also actively trying to establish their operations abroad on a more permanent basis, particularly in the neighbouring countries of Norway and Finland, where they likely have few rivals who could challenge them with equal levels of violence, as well as Spain, where supposed Swedish narcos have migrated there to be closer to their wholesale suppliers that allow them to maintain and grow their drug dealing operations. As the gangs have become an inescapable part of the Swedish society, the media has also begun to make increasingly detailed reports about them, including dedicated sites like this one from the Swedish public service media company SVT, where each gang is presented in great detail. It's almost like a corporate version of Reddit's Chiracology sub, which documents the daily goings-on among Chicago gang and drill communities. This particular
Yo, this is that's not even random. I just kind of wanted to stop. You know, like, I don't want to say it's senseless because I'm sure they're standing on something. You know, they feel like they're riding behind something. So I can't say it's senseless. I'm not going to say that. I'm not in their shoes to call it senseless. But I would say it's unnecessary. Like, why we can't just communicate? Like, yo, when you think about the amount of money, I just did a reaction video to one bikie that allegedly had like something. It was a lot of money. So it's like, it's so much money in this world, man. Why we can't just share the money? Share.
Site lists 29 gangs that have at least some operations in the greater Stockholm area, with some of the most well-known ones that we'll be discussing in this video being the Death Patrol, a gang that hails from the suburb of Rinkeby in northwest Sweden, a name which was first given to the gang by the media as seen in shocking reporting on the group being suspected of committing as many as 10 murders. The original members of the Death Patrol apparently called themselves 3MST, with the name being derived from the names of their most prominent members, 3 being 3M, referring to 3 founding members whose names
That's a rapper. I know him. This one right here. I like him, right?
begin with M, Mohammed, aka Makan or Makalele, Mustafa, aka Musa, and Masla,
But he not a rapper. I feel like I seen him in a music video before.
aka Hajud. The S stands for Zachariah, aka Shobra, and the T for Abdisamed, aka Talang, with some suggesting that the name 3MST actually stands for the Three Musketeers. But later, the abbreviation DP for Death Patrol would become a common name used to refer to the gang in internal Sweden. The Death Patrol formed in 2015, but has now been largely replaced by a new generation who have been given the new name the Hulster Children, referring to another suburb near Rinkeby.
The fact that they calling them children is crazy. Like, if they're children, then come on, they don't know no better. They need guidance. They need help. They need something to keep them away from this.
New generation of the gang has also been referred to as the Death Patrol 2.0, or YDP, meaning Young Death Patrol, with this formatting actually borrowing a common UK gang tradition using the letter Y to refer to a younger generation of a famous gang. And shockingly, it wouldn't take long for news reports to suggest that the Death Patrol 2.0 was quickly becoming one of Stockholm's most violent groups. And now, in direct opposition to the Death Patrol, you have the Shotters, another gang from Rinkeby, infamous for their deadly feud with the Death Patrol that goes all the way back to 2015. This gang likely got its name from the classic 2002 gangster.
Hey, yo, drop a comment if you ever seen Shotters. Take the what and leave the what? Drop a comment. That's a classic.
The movie Shotters, which depicts 2 guys from the hard streets of Kingston, Jamaica, migrating to Miami in search for a better life. Some of the main names that have been associated with the Shotters are the brothers Far and Faye, aka Frankie, as well as Faisal, aka Indiana, A, Poi, Gucci, Hoods, and the rappers Yasin, formerly Yasin Bin, and Jafar Bin. Like the Death Patrol, the Shotters also have a younger generation who go by the name FLG or Filterlösa Grabbar, which translates to something like the filterless guys, suggesting that in the streets, they truly have no filter. Later, the FLG would also have a split where some of the members would start a new gang called SSA, or Same Side Always. Now, as mentioned previously, there's another gang called the Darlan Network, which was allegedly the first gang that the rapper Einar became associated with as a youngster.
Hey, I know him. He fire with the bars. Yeah, I want to learn about him for sure. Yo, drop that comment. He was the GOAT. Like, he had bars.
Through a friend of his called Packy. That's his name, don't cancel me for that. At the time, this gang was likely operating mainly in the projects of an area called Darlen, including the suburbs around Enskede where Einar grew up, and the neighbouring Bagarmossen. However, recently, the gang has allegedly begun heavily expanding their operations across the country, leading to a violent turf war with another criminal group called the Foxtrot Network. That war reportedly begun in the city of Sundsvall. Allegedly, the gang's expansion has recently come under the leadership of a fresh-faced 25-year-old kingpin by the name of Mikhail the Greek.
Allegedly, let's just say that. 25 years old? What? Shout out to him. He a hustler at 25 years old getting money like that. Shout out to him, allegedly.
Tenezos. Tenezos has a warrant out for his arrest and is assumed to currently reside abroad, but his location is unknown. Now, the Darlan Network also has several rappers associated with the gang, including aka Thrife Jack, who
Yo, drop a comment. I gotta listen to his music. I don't think I've ever came across this artist. Drop a comment right now. Tell me a song. I want to get to it. I know I love me some Sweden music. I love the rawness behind the bars. So drop those comments. I want to hear some music from him.
who hails from the suburb of Enskede and can be seen hanging out with Einar in the projects of Darlan.
Okay, so again, the suburbs in America means good. That's a good place to be. So in Sweden, is the suburbs, I'm guessing it's my bad. Get a little excited though, because it's like so crazy how y'all just do things so differently. So like this, the suburbs in Sweden is the hood. Drop a comment, let me know.
In Einar's first music video. There is also Haval, who hails from the suburb of Skarpnäck, which is located near Enskede-Dalen, who can even be seen here posting with the former leader of the Dalen network, Mario Golzar-Mia, who is currently imprisoned for the kidnapping of Einar, among other serious.
Did he just say he is currently in prison for kidnapping? Yo, son, I can't. This is a lot. This is a lot. This is a lot. I wanna the Shadas go to prison. The death. Let's see what this is.
Back in the suburbs of Rinkeby, Shotters members were enraged after the murders of Faye and Gucci, and it was clear that somebody would have to pay in blood. With the Swedish news reporting the authorities had labelled the gang situation as a code red and describing a revenge spiral that had resulted in yet more murders in the community. In the following weeks, there were several violent incidents taking place in Järva. In one of these incidents, a Death Patrol affiliate was beaten badly and a video of the attack was posted online. And then, one night in August, the younger generation of the Shotters, or the so-called filterless guys, ended up allegedly running into a brother of a Death Patrol member called Capone. After beating the brother up, they forced him to call Capone and ask him to come to where they were, a wooded area in Tensta. But Capone worked out what was going on, refusing to come, knowing likely what would happen to him. Later on, Capone's brother would be found shot to death in that wooded area. The police would later allegedly arrest 5
Yo, and the way they do they get back, allegedly, the way they do they get back is crazy. Like, it'd be so soon. Like, dang, this just happened.
people suspected of being involved in the murder, one of these men allegedly being Hoods, who had just survived the Death Patrol's assassination attempt in Denmark. But once again, there wasn't enough evidence and no one would be charged in the end. However, years later, in 2022, Yasin would rap in the song V4, implying that Hoods had indeed gotten some get back. In November 2019, Yasin was released from prison after finishing his sentence for the firearm and other lesser offences. While he had been locked up, the Swedish gangster rap scene had exploded, partly due to Einar's huge popularity, and even from behind bars, Yasin had also become one of the country's most popular artists. Shortly after his release, Yasin headed to Milano, Italy with his friends, including alleged Shotters members, to shoot a big budget music video for his new song, DSGIS, which
Oh, I gotta do a reaction video to that, because I like your son.
Translates to What is Hidden in Snow. Yasin begins the song by calling to free a bunch of Shotters members, including JB, aka Jafar Bin, and Far, the brother of Faye, who had been doing a long sentence while the war in Rinkeby had been raging. In the music video, there's a number of other Shotters members present, such as Yasin's longtime friend Poi, aka Vincent. In December, he would release an EP with the hilarious title, which translates to Hand Under Mona Lisa's Skirt, where he again shouts out Far, as well as saying Rest in Peace Frankie, aka Faye. And then, in a surprising turn of events, only a few days after this EP's release, and right before New Year's Eve, Poi, who had just featured in Yasin's music video, was found in a car at a parking lot in Rinkeby with multiple gunshot wounds. He was taken to a hospital, but his condition was severe, eventually only being kept alive with a ventilator, and sadly, the following day, his father would post on Facebook revealing that his son had indeed passed away. Shortly after Poi was found, the police arrested several people, 2 near the scene and others in a car near downtown Stockholm. One of the people arrested in the car was Yasin himself, with news reporting the arrest of the Swedish rap star. Apparently, all of the arrested were members of the Shotters gang. Yasin explained to police that he had actually been sitting in the car with Poi when suddenly someone had opened the door on the driver's side, shooting Poi. Yasin claimed that he would then take off running, believing that he had been the true target of the attack. Yasin was found to have some gunshot residue on him, which made his story seem questionable, but that alone didn't really help the police understand what had happened. And in spring of 2020, Yasin and the rest of the Shotters members were finally released due to a lack of evidence. But that didn't stop rumours that Poi had actually been killed due to an internal conflict within the gang, with the news even pointing out the peculiar detail that Poi's name was not celebrated on social media following his death, and that fellow Shotters didn't contact his family with condolences. Soon after this, Yasin would release his debut album, 980111, named after his birthday.
Yeah, that album probably go crazy because he probably really talking that talk, expressing himself. You know what I mean? Talking about what he been through. I got to do a reaction video to that too. Drop that comment. Man, this is crazy. I want to do, hold on, something else I wanted to learn about. This, the murder. Okay, they talk about the kidnapping. Because I was confused as to how he passed away. And I heard that he was 19. So I definitely want to get into this. Now, drop that comment. Was he 19? Because that's such a young age, man. Like, this is just crazy.
The baby-faced Swedish gangster rapper Einar had built a serious buzz for himself in the years preceding his tragic fate. However, his position in the gangster rap scene and his proximity to real gangsters running the suburbs of Sweden was both part of the appeal and a serious threat. Spending time during his come-up in the Dalen district in Stockholm, he would rub shoulders with the infamous street crew, the Dalen Network, building a friendship with an alleged former leader of the Dalen Network, Paki, who became Einar's manager, along with another alleged member called Chapo. As you now know, in 2018, Paki would be killed, with the allegations that Chapo was responsible ultimately leading to a trial where Chapo would beat all the charges. And now you know more about the bloody and years-long gang war that followed, it's no surprise then that Einar's position at the top of the Swedish drill community would be contentious. The later rumours were that the Dalen Network, who allegedly were involved in the early career of Einar, had become resentful towards the rapper after his career had blown up. Apparently, they had been left out of lucrative deals. Later, extensive police reports would reveal exactly what had happened. Much of these revelations were based on the fact that just as Einar's kidnapping was being planned, the police in Europe had gained access to messages between thousands of criminals who had been using an encrypted communication network made by the company called EncroChat. These messages showed that between the 30th and 31st of March 2020, Yasin was working together with members from both the Dalen and Vorby networks to kidnap Einar. Yasin's job in the plan was to lure Einar, who thought that the two were on good terms with him, to a location where he could be kidnapped. Later messages
Yo, so he thought that was his mans? Nah, say it ain't so. This can't be true.
would provide a shocking revelation, when one of the people involved in the plan would write a message saying that Yasin will do Einar like Poi, implying that Yasin had indeed lured his childhood friend out the night that he was murdered. However, on the night that Yasin was supposed to lure Einar to a specific location, he would get paranoid after he was stopped by the police in the early morning of the 31st of March during a visit to a 7-Eleven. After a taxi driver had reported giving a ride to a group,
Hey, 7-Eleven. Yo, y'all 7-Eleven 24/7 in Sweden? Drop a comment, let me know.
of nervously acting men who possibly had a weapon. After this search, at this stop, the police would indeed find a gun on Yasin, but this gun would turn out actually to be a replica which Yasin had claimed he was only carrying for a music video shoot. Also that night, another gang member involved in the plan, a former youth soccer star, Ilya Djurkovic, who had played in Sweden's under-17 national team before suffering an injury and getting deep into the gang life with
Wow, so he had a successful career. So crazy how something could happen and just change your life around drastically.
the Vorby network, would find the police snooping around his apartment, making him suspicious. After these events, the gang would decide to abort the initial kidnapping plan. A few days later, the leader of the Vorby network, Jihab Lamauri, would indicate that they had located his longtime nemesis, Mikhail Yokana, and Yasin was notified that Einar's kidnapping plan.
Now, remember, this is all allegedly, you know, because we know, I mean, Trap Lord, he wasn't actually there, so he don't really know. This is just all just documents based on, you know, media attention and stuff like that. So, which he did state. So, you know, you're innocent until proven guilty. This is just, just listening to this breaks my heart. Like 19, that man was so talented. I done heard that man music. I done fell in love with Sweden music because of that man. And it just super sucked that he lost his life at such a young age.
Plans were to be put on hold. In reality, however, the plans moved on, but this time with the help of the rapper Haval. It was now Haval's turn, together with members of the Dalen network that Einar had previously associated with, to lure Einar into a specific apartment where members of the Vorby network would be waiting. Astonished.
Well, let's just say Einar had to be that guy if they had to do that to get him. You know what I mean? Like, he wasn't that type of nigga you could just catch slipping on the, you know what I mean? They had to get somebody that know him, because they knew, like, he was moving real smart in them streets. So rest in peace to that smart man, for real.
Shortly after midnight on the 15th, together with members of the Dalen network that Einar had previously associated with, to lure Einar into a specific apartment where members of the Vorby network would be waiting. Astonishingly, shortly after midnight on the 15th of April, as Haval, Einar, and members of the Dalen network, including the leader, Mario Golzarmir, were driving towards the apartment, the police would once again make a stop. Unfortunately, everyone in the car seemed to be in good spirits at this point, and after telling the crew to kick one person out of the car to bring the number of people traveling in it to a safe 5 passengers, the cops then allowed them to continue their journey. This stop by the police happened only 100 meters away from their destination. Inside the apartment they were going to, members of the Vorby network were waiting, armed with the various weapons, as well as props that they were planning on using to humiliate Einar. Once again, in another shocking display of brutality that I have never seen in any gang story from Australia to Chicago, these gangsters would hold Einar captive, forcing him to dress up in women's clothing and drink from a dog bowl amid beatings whilst photographs were taken. The motive was to use
What? Nah. I'm surprised he even covered this. What? Making them drink out of a dog bowl, putting women's clothes on them, like, that's torture. Like, that's torture. Could you imagine? Like, that's torture, bro. That's torture. Nah, that's just, come on now, bro. It's street shit and then it's just psychopaths. And that's some psychopath shit. Drop a comment.
These photos to extort the rapper for money. They would also post a photo of a gun and a Rolex day date that they had seemingly taken from Einar. After the members of the Vorby network were done humiliating and torturing Einar, he was then taken by Haval and some others to a location where he would further hand them a gun and 2 golden chains, which Haval would then proudly wear in a picture posted to an accomplice. Shockingly, a music video featuring both Haval and Einar would be dropped the very next day on April the 6th.
Yo, this remind me of the Young Dov situation. How they got a picture, how Dov took a picture with his killer. Yo, let me just say this. Be careful who you call your day one. Because let me tell you something. When it come to money, niggas just switch on you for the littlest thing. You feel me? Niggas just switch on you for the littlest thing. I had a nigga steal $200 from me when I could have gave him that times 3 had he would have just asked me. It'd help me look for the $200 too. You know what I mean? It's fucked up. And then he did it again so I could bring it up again. Because it's like at that point you kind of know what you're doing. You feel me? So I know not to play him too close. Or at all. For that matter. You feel me? So people will switch on you. You know what I mean? So be very, very careful because it's real crazy out here.
16th, along with the rapper Abidaz, making it seem as if nothing had happened between them. But in reality, things were far from fine, and after the kidnapping, the members were also planning on planting a bomb at Einar or one of his family members' homes, with the police reports mentioning how guys like Mario Golzarmia were stopped by the police near Einar's house in the weeks following the kidnapping. Then, in May, the perpetrators made the decision that their extortion plan was not going to work, and these pictures of Einar were published on social media through various channels. However, according to the police, an Instagram account by the name of Shobra the Don, named after the real Instagram account of Shobra from the Death Patrol, may well have been the first account to post these photos. This same account also tagged the location in some of these pictures as Rinkeby and posted a censored photo of 3 Death Patrol members, including Shaki, who was still in closed youth care for the murder of Hamza, and Abe, who was already arrested for the murders of Faye and Gucci. Seemingly, this was a half-hearted attempt to actually frame the Death Patrol for the crime, or perhaps it was just trolling. On the popular Swedish discussion forum Flashback, which also acts as a kind of Swedish version of Chiracology, where real crime and gang-related cases are discussed in depth, the news of Einar's kidnapping quickly became a popular topic on the forum, with rumours spreading that Einar was even assaulted in the attack, with many trolls on the forum taking the news with glee. Some people were happy about what had happened to Einar due to the fact that a lot of his haters felt that he was faking his gangster image and suggesting that he had now gotten a real taste of the lifestyle that he claimed to live, with one commenter saying, "Thug life, surely that's what he wanted, now he got his way, congratulations." There was also immediately much speculation.
Now, that person who just commented, that was ignorant, man. Because at the end of the day, that boy is 19. He ain't know no better. Whether you want to say he was faking, whether you want to say he was just exploring his creativity, he ain't know no better at 19. Your brain not even fully developed at 25.
About who had been behind the kidnapping, with one of the first suspects rather randomly being none other than Leo Chinese Carmona, the founder of Sweden's first gangster rap group Kartellen, the Cartel. However, despite numerous possible culprits being discussed
Oh, Sweden's first rap group? That's dope. I gotta listen to that. Drop a comment, tell me what song.
Speculated about, the rumours that the Death Patrol was behind the kidnapping were immediately shut down. Einar himself would reply to the media storm with a short video where he simply stated, anyone can get kidnapped, and that this wasn't going to change or stop anything.
Yo, vad händer Instagram, ja? Eran broder här. Walla, jag har en sak att säga till er bara. Alla där ute kan bli kidnappade, alla där ute kan bli slagna, alla där ute kan bli, jag vet inte vad brorsan, men Benny, man mår bra. Ni ser, jag är i liv och ingen kan göra det jag gör, så jag kommer fortsätta så länge jag står på ben.
Then, in July 2020, a rapper called Mackie dropped a music video where Haval can be seen hanging in the background. In one scene, Haval can be seen in a car with another rapper named Euro, who lifts up 2 gold chains and a watch that were rumoured to be the ones stolen from Einar during the kidnapping. Later, the police reports would reveal that Euro, real name Idris Yusuf, had also been stopped by the police during Einar's kidnapping near the apartment where Einar had been taken, with his role likely being that of a lookout. This brazen exhibition of stolen chains would continue about 1 week later, when Haval dropped a music video for his new song, Controls Them, where he likely can be seen wearing the 2 stolen chains as well as a watch. These rather subtle flexes by the perpetrators were missed by many fans and online detectives following the case, but not by the police, who were following their every move after having received the EncroChat logs in the spring of 2020, likely shortly after the kidnapping had taken place. Then, in September, they moved in and arrested the ex-footballer Ilya Jok together with several other people from the Volby network. In early December, it was reported that Haval was also in custody, followed by Yasin, who would be arrested at the end of the month. The media was not reporting which rapper Yasin was accused of kidnapping, although the fact that it was Einar was obvious to anybody familiar with what was going on. But his arrest, at the height of his career, caused a major public debate about the influence of the new wave of gangster rappers in Sweden, particularly right-wing politicians who demanded that Yasin's music should be removed from streaming platforms like Spotify, as well as suggesting that he should be banned from all musical award ceremonies. Meanwhile, more left-leaning voices argued about how this gangster rap in Sweden had become an artistic way to reflect on the real surroundings of people from poor backgrounds coming up in these areas. Ultimately, the gang war was heavily impacting the music industry at this point, whether the authorities, politicians, or newspapers liked it or not. The battles between these famous gang-affiliated rappers had become like a twisted reality show that Swedish citizens were following with sick interest. Unfortunately, however, for the actual rappers and gangsters involved, this was not a game. And naturally, escalation wouldn't be far behind, as ultimately revenge would be taken for these despicable acts, leading to yet more deadly bloodshed on the streets of Sweden. Following the kidnapping of Einar and the arrest of the kidnappers, Einar himself kept it street and refused to cooperate in the investigation, and the leaked pictures from the humiliation ritual seemed to have little if any effect on his popularity, which was only growing. Whilst his old industry friends were fighting their case, Einar would continue showing off his luxurious lifestyle on social media, seemingly replacing his stolen watches with a whole
Yo, that's gangster. He got kidnapped and still was shitting on niggas. Like, I don't care, y'all kidnapped me. I'm still out here, still getting money. Yo, that's gangster.
collection of Rolexes and showing off luxury vacations and his time spent driving Lamborghinis. In a way, Einar was taunting his rivals and showing that he was doing better than ever despite their best efforts. Moreover, this kidnapping wouldn't make Einar disassociate with the streets, but rather get far more involved, with rumours actually spreading that he was hanging out with various different gangs following his kidnapping and even buying protection from some of them, not dissimilar to Tekashi 6ix9ine before he ended up getting busted, including possibly heavy hitters like the Bredan Getwork and Bandito's motorcycle gang, who were infamous in the streets of Sweden for a string of bombings. Einar was also still associating himself with many of the allegedly gang-affiliated rappers such as 50 and Mowgli, who were allegedly in the Bro network.
Hey yo, I like 50. He got bars too. Drop a comment for 50.
From Uplands Bro in North Stockholm. This gang has become infamous in recent years for their affiliations with the Foxtrot gang, who have been estimated to run one of the largest drug smuggling and distribution operations in Sweden, with one bust concerning a conspiracy to smuggle a whopping 800 kilos of dope. Foxtrot has also been entangled in extremely violent clashes in recent years with other large gangs, including the Darlan network, who was seemingly directly responsible for Einar's kidnapping, as well as going through a bloody internal conflict. Now, the gang was rumoured to have been led by a man named Rawa Majid, the name Rawa being close to the Swedish word rev, which means fox, where the name Foxtrot stems from. Majid is also more commonly known in the media by his nickname, the Kurdish Fox. Einar also collaborated with a rapper called One Cuz, who received unexpected international fame when he got a shout out from Ed Sheeran during a 2022 Breakfast Club interview.
There's a Swedish rapper I was listening to the other day called One Cuz, and he raps in Swedish, but I still feel it.
One Cuz is alleged to have been affiliated with a gang called the Lions, a gang hailing from the Hässelby Gård suburb in northwestern Stockholm. A gang which has since allegedly split into two rival gangs after an internal conflict, which I'm not going to get into here. But after doing a prison bid for getting caught with some heavy weaponry, One Cuz would claim to have left the streets behind him, focusing instead on his music career and collaborating with various mainstream celebrities like Ed Sheeran himself, who actually linked up with One Cuz on the track Two Step. One Cuz has even been associated with the infamous climate activist Greta Thunberg. However, in spite of saying that he left the gang life behind, references to the gang lifestyle have remained a steady part of his music going forward. In his recent music video for the song Trauma Paranoia, One Cuz can even be seen hanging out in both Hässelby
He got bars too.
Gård and Rinkeby with a large gang, and at one point in the video, a masked man can be seen pointing towards the infamous pizza place in Rinkeby where Hamza was killed. And at the end of the video, One Cuz can be seen posting with the same man in front of the pizza place, making it seem as if the masked man is somehow connected with the murder that took place there. Indeed, One Cuz would also post a photo on Instagram where he's hanging out with none other than Shaki, the young Death Patrol member who killed Hamza at the pizza place. This would cause One Cuz to receive some questionable media coverage, with Swedish news reporting a sensational headline calling out Greta Thunberg for socializing with a Death Patrol killer, with this negative press perhaps being the reason that the official YouTube video of that song has been deleted from YouTube. When it comes to the Death Patrol, it seemed that Einar too was increasingly spending time with people who had connections to the gang and their affiliates, including the Death Patrol affiliate Doomla and rappers Adel and ZE, who are both from the Järva area. Adel too has been associated in the past with the Death Patrol and the Husby's Hyenas, both enemies of the Shotters. Einar was also not shunning away from rapping about his enemies. In the songs after his kidnapping, he would seemingly often sneak diss the people involved. For example, in one song, with the title translating roughly "To Put Them in Their Place," released in February 2021, Einar raps about becoming the most streamed artist in Sweden and people who used to be his friends betraying him because of jealousy, as well as referencing former friends who want to see him dead. After this, in April, Einar would put out
listen to that whole album that he dropped. You know, I'm sure it's fire. Drop a comment, tell me which songs go hard.
His most pointed diss with his feature on the song Voi by rapper Danny M. About a week before the song was released,
See, me personally, I just wish the rappers would just keep the violence in the music, you know? I like it when rappers just go back and forth on some MC shit. I hate it when they start taking it to the streets and then now people losing their lives.
Man was shot to death in the suburb of Kista. This man would turn out to be the little brother of Haval, the man accused of setting up the kidnapping of Einar. According to reports, the killers in this murder had actually fled the scene on electric scooters, with Voi, the title of that song, in fact being a popular brand of rentable e-scooters in Stockholm. In the chorus of the song, Danny and Einar rap about a body laying on the ground like a ditch scooter, rapping the lyrics, "Come get your boy." And the imagery of a scooter laying on the ground is seen in the cover artwork for the song. And Einar would actually end his verse with lyrics that seemingly imply his role in a murder-for-hire plot, rapping that a young'un will take one for the team and shoot someone and their friend, and that his new team is planning more than just getting famous, followed by gunshot sounds. The release of this scooter-themed song so soon after the scooter-aided murder would start rumours that Einar may have ordered the murder as revenge for his kidnapping, and much later, alleged leaked DMs between Danny and Haval were posted on social media after Haval had supposedly gotten this song dissing his murdered brother removed from Spotify. But while Einar was seemingly bragging about get back for his kidnapping, the authorities would be getting back for it too. In July 2021, Yasin and Haval were finally found guilty for their parts in the kidnapping, and they were sentenced to prison. Haval for 2.5 years, and Yasin for just 10 months. A few months later, in September, Einar would drop a new song, Dancer, or
Damn, 10 months for kidnapping, that's it? That's crazy. I would have thought it would have been longer, I guess.
Dance, with the rapper Adam, where he seemingly once again takes shots at Haval and his murdered brother. Also in September, newspapers report how a drunken rapper had tried to take a police officer's gun while he was being detained, ending in him getting tased. Different sources seem to put Einar together with his rapper friends Adel and ZE all at the scene, with suggestions that the altercation had taken place during a raid on a party that they were attending. Then, the next month on October the 9th, 2021, newspapers would report how two famous rappers had been arrested following a stabbing in a restaurant. The newspapers would also report that the victim belonged to the Husby's Hyenas gang and that the stabbing was gang-related. And rumours would later circulate, suggesting that Einar, together once again with Adel and ZE, were all at the scene of the stabbing. It seemed that despite Einar's massive mainstream success and previous entanglements with gang members, his life was still heading in an increasingly violent direction. And unfortunately, only about 2 weeks later, on October the 21st, it would all come to an end. That night, Einar was out once again, hanging out with Adel as well as Doomla, who had recently begun making music himself. They were in the wealthy Hammarby Kärrstad neighbourhood in central Stockholm, where Einar had gotten an apartment. As the trio was exiting a bike storage room at the yard of Einar's apartment building after an apparent smoke session, two assailants would approach them with guns and begin shooting, making Adel and Einar begin to run in different directions, while Doomla would supposedly go back into the bike storage. Einar ran into a courtyard and was seemingly heading towards the door of the building, but would reportedly choose the wrong door where his key fob didn't work. At this point, he would be shot several times from close distance. Soon after, people in and around the apartments would arrive to try and help him, with some seemingly realizing that this was a famous rapper deciding to film his final moments on the ground, which would soon end up going viral on the internet. Meanwhile, people from the other side seemingly celebrating and posted the picture of Einar dead on the ground with the caption, "Free Haval." That very night,
Damn, yo, he got bodied and basically he was so close to his house. Like, damn, man. He was just reckless.
people on the internet would get the information, with members of the Death Patrol seemingly confirming the murder of Sweden's biggest drill rapper. And the next morning, the whole of Sweden would wake up to the news in the media about his murder. Immediately, speculation would also begin about exactly what had happened, with news reporting about threats that Einar had received on social media in the days leading up to his death. The news would even claim that money had been put on his head following the recent stabbing incident, and it was that event that apparently made Einar particularly fearful for his life. The witnesses also said that that the killers themselves were actually the ones who had seemingly filmed the body of Einar after shooting him, with some wild claims even suggesting that the killers had actually broadcasted the entire execution to other gang members via FaceTime live, implying that these were actually contract killers who needed live proof of the job being done. There would even be videos circulating where two masked men seemingly claimed the murder whilst listening to that song Voy by Einar and Danny M, where Einar had supposedly dissed Haval's dead younger brother. However, despite an intensive investigation, the shooters of Einar were not caught, and soon the focus amongst fans and the media turned to the few facts that were known clearly, like the fact that the people that were with Einar at the time of his death, Adel and Dumoulin, with many asking how did the killers know where and when to hit Einar. Einar's address and other personal information was secret due to the threats against his safety and the kidnapping case, as well as his popularity in the city. But this address had reportedly been leaked after he became a suspect in a drug investigation. However, even more puzzling, had the killers not arrived when the trio was outside smoking, they would have had very few ways to actually reach Einar, who reportedly lived in a secure building that required a key fob access to enter. So the only explanation then was that someone with Einar must have told the killers when to pull up. Soon, the online detectives would quickly point their fingers towards the Death Patrol affiliate, Mehdi Dumla Sashir, with speculation that somebody had written on Instagram 2 years before, warning Einar that his friends might sell him out. Indeed, they would also point out that this wouldn't be the first time that Dumla had possibly betrayed a supposed friend and tricked them into their death. On the 30th of June 2019, a rapper by the name of Roz was shot to death in front of his home. Soon after, newspapers would report how an arrest had been made in the case, which linked the killers to the Death Patrol. The person arrested would turn out to be Dumla. The police reports would reveal how Roz's mum had explained to the police how Roz's brother had been killed in a gang-related incident in 2018, and ever since Roz had begun rapping, he had often spoken about avenging his brother's death, upsetting the gang members allegedly responsible for the murder. And then Mehdi, aka Dumla, had suddenly appeared in his life, and soon after, Roz had been killed, with the implication being that Dumla, who had a relationship with the people that Roz was talking about getting back at in his music, had sold him out. Indeed, according to Roz's girlfriend, it was Dumla who called him right before he stepped outside and got shot. The police would eventually catch Roz's killer, but there wasn't enough evidence to tie Dumla into the case. However, when Dumla himself was asked about the online theories regarding his role in Einar's murder, he would deny having anything to do with it, calling it speculation. However, after Einar's murder, the Swedish media would get interested in Dumla too, and one of the largest evening newspapers in the country, the Expressen, would publish an in-depth interview with him where Dumla told about his life as an alleged Death Patrol member, and even shockingly telling the Swedish public to just let the gang members kill each other until there are none left, suggesting that it's not the middle and upper class people who die in the gang war, but just the people at the bottom who have made a problem for themselves.
Stadiet som konflikten är i nu mellan Shottaz och Dödspatrullen. Finns det någon lösning där?
Nej. Det finns ingen lösning. Det finns ingen lösning på den alltså. Tills folk ska dö ju. Folk dör ju.
Och då mammor som förlorar sina söner, pappor, sina barn också. Och ett helt samhälle som blir påverkat av att ni är några killar som skjuter varandra och mördar varandra. Är det rimligt att fortsätta den banan?
Det låter inte rimligt, men... Ja, det låter inte rimligt, nej. Men folk måste bort ju.
Yo, this guy is like he sound like he don't really give a f about much about that's like his life, anyone's life around him. He doesn't really seem like he cared too much. So that's kind of messed up that, you know, he found himself in this situation around people that really cared about themselves.
This interview would anger the right-wing media pundits who saw it as glorifying gang life. Moreover, they would point out that Dumla had one particular crime in his past which was so horrendous that it should disqualify him completely from getting any kind of publicity in any context. Months after Einar's murder, in May 2022, a newspaper would report that a man with a known gang affiliation who knew Einar was suspected of aiding and abetting his murder. This man would allegedly turn out to be Dumla. But then, on the morning of Christmas Day 2022, as Dumla was outside on his home turf in Rinkeby, he too was shot in an execution.
Wow, y'all think he really set him up or some? Drop a comment. Y'all think he set him up? Yo, that shit crazy, bro. Nah, it be your day ones, bro.
Style attack. passing away on Christmas. A few days later, a YouTube channel dropped Doomla's only music video where he actually ends the song himself, saying, "Rest in peace, Einar." It appears that Einar's murder himself has become a cold case, where the police appear to strongly believe that they know who ordered the murder and who committed it and who set it up. But, as seems to be a trend in this story and this country, they simply don't have enough evidence to charge anyone. Most shocking are the theories about one of the likely shooters, who is thought to have been one of Einar's old childhood friends, who goes by the name of Scar, with both of them seemingly growing up together around Darlan. Scar is thought to have become a contract killer for the Darlan network, who Einar had been beefing ever since his kidnapping. And while the police have struggled to find evidence to charge Scar or others allegedly associated with the murder, media and online detectives have published theories of a large-scale revenge taking place in the streets in the aftermath of Einar's murder, that began with the murder of Doomla and includes a spiral of at least 8 public acts of violence, including a murder, 2 shootings, and 5 bombings, 2 of which targeted Scar directly, and 1 a bombing allegedly targeting the home of Haval. According to different sources, both Haval and Yasin have since moved out of Sweden permanently, following their release from prison after finishing their sentences for the participation in the kidnapping of Einar. The reasons seem obvious, given the violence unraveling around them. However, this hasn't stopped Haval from continuing to diss Einar, as in the summer of 2023, Haval teased a new song to his fans where he seemingly implies witnessing a murder via FaceTime whilst in prison. Just like the police had theorized about Einar's case, he would eventually drop the controversial song under the name of Southside, and then, a few months later, on Einar's death day, Haval would also post a picture of him smoking with a skeleton, sending a clear message about his feelings towards Einar, even long after his death.
That is heartbreaking. Like I said, I wish it just stay in the music. If it stays in the music, people keep their lives. Once it leaves the music and go street, it just heartbreaking me. I dropped that comment. I'm out.